Before the first rooster crowed over the sleepy village of Afolu, Monica was already awake. The stars still shimmered in the sky as she balanced 2 empty buckets on her shoulders and walked the narrow path leading to the village stream. The cool morning air wrapped around her, but she barely noticed it anymore. This had been her routine for as long as she could remember. By the time the first rays of sunlight painted the hills golden, Monica had fetched water, swept the entire compound, prepared breakfast, washed the previous day's dishes, and fed the family's goats and chickens. Inside the house, everyone else was still asleep. Her younger brother, Samuel, stretched lazily beneath a soft blanket. Her younger sister, Deborah, slept peacefully beside the new school uniform their mother had bought the week before. Monica looked at them through the open doorway before quietly returning to the smoky kitchen. She smiled to herself. Despite everything, she loved her family. Or at least, she desperately wanted them to love her. Monica. The sharp voice shattered the morning silence. Mama Esther stormed into the kitchen with her hands on her waist. What kind of soup is this? Monica quickly stood. I'm sorry, Mother. I thought. You thought. Mama Esther snapped. Since when do you think? Look at these vegetables. They're too big. Without warning, she grabbed the pot and poured its contents onto the dusty ground. Breakfast for the entire family disappeared in seconds. You'll cook another one. Yes, Mother. And don't stand there looking at me like an orphan. Those words hurt more than the slap that followed. Monica lowered her eyes. I'm sorry. Mama Esther walked away without another glance. Not once did she ask whether Monica had eaten. Not once did she notice the tears gathering in the young woman's eyes. The neighbors had become used to the shouting. As Monica washed the dirty pot by the outdoor tap, 2 elderly women carrying firewood slowed their steps. That poor girl, one whispered. I've never seen a mother treat her own child that way. The other sighed. Only God knows what Monica did to deserve such hatred. Monica heard every word. She wished someone would ask a different question. What if she had done nothing at all? Later that morning, Samuel and Deborah left for school dressed in crisp uniforms. Mama Esther proudly adjusted Deborah's collar. My beautiful daughter, she said with a smile. Study hard and make me proud. Monica stood nearby holding their lunch basket. She waited. Perhaps today her mother would smile at her too. Instead, Mama Esther shoved another pile of dirty clothes into her arms. When you're done washing these, clear the weeds behind the barn. Yes, Mother. And don't even think about touching your sister's books. The children walked away laughing. Monica watched until they disappeared down the dusty road. Only then did she begin the endless chores waiting for her. Around noon, she visited the small cassava farm belonging to Mama Beezy, an elderly widow who could barely walk. Every week, Monica helped her without asking for payment. You're here again, Mama Beezy smiled warmly. You should be resting. I'll rest when the work is finished. The old woman laughed softly. You remind me that kindness still exists. As they harvested cassava beneath the blazing sun, Monica's hoe struck something hard beneath the soil. Wait. She knelt and brushed away the dirt. A worn leather purse emerged from the ground. Inside were several folded documents wrapped carefully in cloth. Mama Beezy gasped. My land papers. Her hands trembled as she unfolded them. I thought these were lost years ago. Tears rolled down her wrinkled cheeks. Without these documents, my late husband's farmland was nearly taken from me. She hugged Monica tightly. My child, you've returned my future. The grateful widow insisted on rewarding her. The following day, she quietly paid Monica's registration fee for evening literacy classes in the neighboring village. For the first time in years, Monica allowed herself to dream. She imagined reading books without hiding, writing her own name with confidence. Perhaps one day becoming a teacher, maybe even helping children who had no one else. She carefully folded the admission papers and tucked them beneath her sleeping mat. That evening, she returned home happier than anyone had seen her in years. It didn't last. Mama Esther entered the kitchen looking for firewood. She noticed the papers. What are these? Monica's face lit up. Mama Beezy paid for evening classes. I can finally learn to read properly. I'll finish all my chores before I go, I promise. Mama Esther stared silently at the papers. Then, without saying a word, she carried them outside. Monica followed. Mother? Mama Esther struck a match. The flame caught instantly. No. Monica rushed forward, but it was too late. The papers curled, blackened, and turned to ash before her eyes. "You belong in this house," Mama Esther said coldly. "Books won't change who you are." Tears streamed down Monica's face. For years, she had swallowed every insult, every slap, every humiliation. But something inside her finally broke. Her voice trembled. "Mother, what? What have I ever done to make you hate me?" Silence. The evening breeze stopped. Even the birds seemed to disappear. For the first time, Monica noticed something strange. Mama Esther wasn't angry. She was frightened. Real fear flashed across her face. It lasted only a heartbeat. Then came another slap, harder than any before. "Never ask me that question again." Monica stumbled backward onto the ground. At that very moment, Pa Ade stepped into the compound carrying his farming tools. He looked from his crying daughter to his furious wife. His lips parted as though he wanted to speak. But no words came. He simply lowered his head and walked into the house. That night, Monica lay awake on her thin mat in the kitchen. Sleep refused to come. Near midnight, hushed voices drifted through the cracked wooden wall separating the kitchen from her parents' room. "I can't keep lying forever," Pa Ade whispered. "The girl deserves to know." Mama Esther answered immediately. "No, Esther. If she discovers the truth." Her voice grew colder. "Everything we've built will collapse." Monica held her breath. The truth? What truth? She slowly crawled toward the tiny window, desperate to hear more. Then, crack. A dry branch snapped outside. Monica turned sharply toward the sound. A dark figure stood beside the mango tree at the edge of the compound. Someone else had been listening. Before she could call out, the shadow disappeared into the darkness beyond the fence. The next morning, the stranger was gone. No footprints. No clues. Only questions. And for the first time in her life, Monica realized that her mother's hatred might not have begun with her. It might have begun with a secret. Monica did not sleep the following night. The whispered conversation between her parents echoed endlessly in her mind. The girl deserves to know. If she discovers the truth, everything we've built will collapse. What truth? For 20 years, she had believed the only mystery in her life was why her own mother hated her. Now she realized there was something much bigger hiding beneath the silence. From that day forward, Monica watched everything. She noticed how Mama Esther would suddenly stop talking whenever she entered a room. She noticed the frightened glance her father gave her whenever their eyes met. Most of all, she noticed an old wooden chest in her parents' bedroom that Mama Esther never allowed anyone to touch. Whenever Monica swept the room, Mama Esther stood nearby, watching every movement. "Leave that corner," she would say sharply. "I'll clean it myself." That only made Monica more curious. 3 days later, opportunity finally came. Mama Esther traveled to the neighboring village to attend a women's cooperative meeting, while Pa Ade left before dawn to sell yams at the weekly market. Samuel and Deborah were in school. For the first time, the compound was completely empty. Monica's heart pounded as she stepped into her parents' room. She hated invading their privacy, but she needed answers. She knelt beside the old chest. The rusty padlock was missing. With trembling hands, she slowly lifted the heavy lid. Inside were neatly folded wrappers, old family photographs, worn letters, and bundles of yellowed receipts tied together with faded string. Nothing unusual. She searched carefully, trying not to disturb the arrangement. Then, beneath a pile of old baby clothes wrapped in white cloth, her fingers touched something cold. She pulled it out. A tiny silver bracelet. Unlike anything sold in Afolu. Delicate engravings circled the metal, and hanging from it was a tiny charm shaped like a crown. On the inside, a single word had been carefully etched. Hope. Monica frowned. She had never heard anyone in her family use that name. Why would her mother hide a baby's bracelet? As she turned it over in her hands, she noticed something else. Tiny letters had been engraved beside the clasp. St. Catherine's Maternity Hospital, Lagos. Lagos. She whispered the word aloud. No one in her family had ever lived in Lagos. So how had this bracelet ended up hidden inside their house? Suddenly, footsteps echoed from outside. Mama Esther. She had returned much earlier than expected. Panicking, Monica quickly tried to place the bracelet back where she had found it. But it slipped from her fingers and landed on the wooden floor. The tiny metallic sound filled the room. Mama Esther appeared in the doorway. She froze. Her eyes locked onto the bracelet. For several seconds, neither woman spoke. Then Mama Esther's face drained of color. Where? Her voice cracked. Did you get that? Monica swallowed nervously. It was inside the chest. Mama Esther rushed forward so quickly that Monica stumbled backward. She snatched the bracelet with shaking hands as though it were a dangerous weapon. You had no right to touch this. I'm sorry. What else did you see? Nothing. Mama Esther stared into Monica's eyes. Not with anger. With terror. She clutched the bracelet tightly against her chest before locking the chest again. If you ever open this box again, she whispered, you'll regret it. Then she walked out without another word. Monica remained frozen. Something about that bracelet terrified her mother. And she intended to find out why. Late that evening, after everyone had gone to bed, Monica heard the back door creak open. She quietly rose from her mat and peered through the kitchen window. Moonlight illuminated the compound. Mama Esther, wrapped in a dark shawl, slipped silently through the gate. She carried a small cloth bag. Monica hesitated. Should she follow? Every instinct warned her to stay home. Instead, she quietly wrapped a scarf around her shoulders and followed from a distance. Mama Esther walked for nearly an hour along lonely footpaths leading toward the neighboring town of Igbona. She never once looked back. Eventually, she stopped before a small nursing home sitting at the edge of town. The building looked abandoned. Paint peeled from the walls. Most windows were boarded shut. Only one room showed signs of life. A faint lantern glowed behind a curtain. Mama Esther knocked 3 times. An elderly woman opened the door. Though bent with age, her sharp eyes revealed a mind that remembered everything. Monica hid behind a mango tree close enough to hear their voices through the open window. You shouldn't have come, the old woman said quietly. I had no choice, Mama Esther replied. The girl is asking questions. The old woman sighed deeply. I warned you this day would come. You promised never to speak. I promised because you begged me. Silence followed. Then the old woman spoke again. I've carried this burden for 20 years. My conscience grows heavier every day. Mama Esther lowered her voice. You were paid. I know. You signed the papers. I know. So keep your mouth shut. The old woman's voice trembled. I don't fear death anymore, Esther. I fear meeting my creator with this secret still buried. Monica's heart pounded. What secret? Who was this woman? Mama Esther stepped closer. Her voice became icy. If you tell anyone... She paused. Everything will be destroyed. The old woman met her eyes. Some things deserve to be destroyed. Monica leaned forward, desperate to hear more. Her foot accidentally struck an empty metal bucket lying beneath the window. Clang. The loud noise shattered the silence. Who's there? Mama Esther shouted. Monica spun around and ran. Behind her, she heard hurried footsteps. Move. Mama Esther yelled. Rain began pouring from the dark sky, soaking the narrow road within seconds. Monica raced through muddy paths, slipping twice before disappearing into thick bushes near the riverbank. She remained hidden until long after the footsteps faded. By dawn, she finally returned home. Mama Esther was already there. Neither woman mentioned the night's events, but the tension between them had become unbearable. The following afternoon, disturbing news spread across Afolu. The elderly woman from the nursing home had vanished. No one had seen her since before sunrise. Her bed remained neatly made. Her walking stick leaned against the wall. Her lantern still burned inside the room. But she was gone. Some claimed she had wandered into the forest. Others believed relatives had taken her away. Monica didn't believe either story. Someone had silenced her before she could reveal the truth. That same evening, nearly 700 kilometers away in Lagos, a distinguished businessman sat alone inside his private study. Chief Richard Lawson stared at a faded newspaper clipping dated 20 years earlier. The headline read, Chaos at St. Catherine's Maternity Hospital after electrical fire. Newborns temporarily unaccounted for. Beside the newspaper rested a tiny silver bracelet, identical to the one Monica had held. Its engraved charm was the same little crown. Its inscription was the same, hope. Richard gently picked it up, his eyes filling with tears. My daughter, he whispered into the silence. I promised your mother I would never stop searching. Then his phone vibrated. An anonymous message appeared on the screen. It contained only one sentence. "She's alive." Chief Richard Lawson read the anonymous message again. "She's alive." His hands trembled. For 20 years, he had received false leads, cruel scams, and empty promises. Every few months, someone claimed to know where his missing daughter was. Each investigation ended in disappointment. But this message was different. A second notification arrived almost immediately. This time, it contained a photograph. A young woman stood beside an elderly widow in a cassava field, smiling despite the sweat on her face. Her simple dress was faded, her hands rough from years of labor, yet there was something striking about her. Victoria Lawson, who had just entered the study, froze when she saw the picture. Tears welled in her eyes. "Richard." She reached for the photograph with trembling fingers. "She has my mother's eyes." Richard stared silently at the image. Then another message appeared. "Her name is Monica. She lives in Afolu village. Someone has hidden her there for 20 years. Hurry, before they discover that you're looking." Richard immediately called his private investigator. "Cancel every meeting." "Sir, we're leaving for Afolu today." Hundreds of kilometers away, Monica's life continued as though nothing had changed. She spent the morning washing clothes by the river while the village women chatted happily nearby. One woman smiled warmly at her. "Monica, you're too hardworking." Another shook her head. "One day, God will reward your kindness." Before Monica could answer, Mama Esther's sharp voice echoed across the riverbank. "Monica." The women fell silent. "Haven't you finished yet?" "I'm almost done, Mother." Mama Esther frowned. "You've become too slow." She grabbed the basket of freshly washed clothes and deliberately dropped it into the muddy water. Several women gasped. One elderly woman finally found the courage to speak. "Esther, she's your daughter. You don't have to treat her this way." Mama Esther turned slowly. "What happens inside my house is none of your business." She pulled Monica away by the wrist. The women exchanged uneasy glances as mother and daughter disappeared down the dusty road. No one noticed the black SUV parked beneath a large iroko tree at the edge of the village. Inside sat Richard and Victoria Lawson. Neither spoke. They watched Monica from a distance. Victoria covered her mouth as tears rolled down her cheeks. "Richard, look at her hands." They were covered with small cuts and old scars. "She has been working like this?" Richard's jaw tightened. Our daughter should never have lived this life. He wanted to run toward her, to hug her, to tell her everything, but the investigator beside him stopped him. "Not yet, sir. We still don't know who took her. If they realize you're here, they may disappear before we uncover the truth." Richard reluctantly nodded. They would wait. For now. That evening, Mama Esther noticed something unusual. As she returned from the village market, she saw the unfamiliar SUV parked outside the chief's palace. Curious, she asked one of the traders, "Who are those visitors?" "They're wealthy donors from Lagos. They want to build a modern health center." The basket slipped from Mama Esther's hands. "A health center?" "Yes. The man is called Chief Richard Lawson." Mama Esther's face lost all color. She staggered backward. No, it couldn't be. She knew that name. 20 years ago, newspapers across Nigeria had reported the disappearance of Chief Richard Lawson's newborn daughter during the hospital fire. She had read every article, because she already knew the missing baby was sleeping inside her own house. Fear gripped her heart. Had they finally found Monica? That night, she sat alone in the darkness, unable to eat. Paade watched her quietly. "What is wrong?" "They're here." "Who?" "The child's real parents." Paade froze. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then he whispered the words he had carried for 2 decades. "Maybe. It's time." Mama Esther slammed her hand against the table. "No. You said that 20 years ago. You've said it every year since. If they take her, they'll destroy us." Paade lowered his eyes. "They deserve their daughter. And Monica deserves the truth." Mama Esther's expression hardened. "I won't lose another child." Before Paade could respond, she wrapped a scarf around her head and stormed out of the house. Near midnight, Mama Esther arrived at an abandoned mechanic's workshop on the outskirts of the neighboring town. 3 men waited inside. Their faces were rough. Their motorcycles leaned against the wall. The tallest stepped forward. "You called." Mama Esther handed him a thick envelope. "I need someone found." The man counted the money without speaking. "Who?" "A young woman." She handed him Monica's photograph. "If strangers from Lagos speak to her, bring her to me. And if she refuses?" Mama Esther hesitated, then whispered words she never imagined she would say. "Do whatever you must." The man smiled coldly. "You've paid the right people." The following evening, Monica attended her literacy class in Igbona. Learning to read had become her only escape from the pain waiting at home. When class ended, darkness had already settled over the narrow village roads. She walked alone beneath the moonlight. Halfway home, she heard an engine behind her. A motorcycle. She stepped aside to let it pass. It didn't. Instead, it slowed beside her. The rider stared silently. Then another motorcycle appeared ahead, blocking the road. Monica's heart began racing. One rider removed his helmet. "Monica?" "Yes." "Someone wants to see you." "I don't know you." "You don't need to." Something in his voice sent fear through her body. She turned and ran. The motorcycles roared to life. The chase had begun. Monica sprinted through narrow footpaths between cocoa farms. Branches scratched her arms as she forced her way into the thick forest. The motorcycles couldn't follow through the dense trees, but the men abandoned them and continued on foot. "Spread out." One shouted, "Don't let her escape." Monica stumbled over exposed roots, struggling to breathe. Suddenly, she saw a crumbling stone building hidden beneath climbing vines. Its faded sign barely remained. St. Catherine's Rural Clinic. She rushed inside. Dust coated every surface. Broken beds lay scattered across the floor. Most rooms had collapsed from years of neglect. Then she noticed an old metal filing cabinet. Its lock had been broken recently. Someone else had searched it. Curiosity overcame fear. She pulled open one drawer. Old patient registers spilled onto the floor. As she searched through them, one page caught her attention. Most of it had been torn away. Only a single entry remained. Female infant. Temporary identification. Hope. Monica's breath caught. Hope. The same name engraved on the mysterious bracelet. Before she could read another line, footsteps echoed through the hallway. The men had found her. She looked around desperately. There was no exit. Then she noticed a narrow opening behind a fallen shelf. A hidden tunnel. Without thinking, Monica squeezed through the darkness just as the first man entered the room. His flashlight swept across the empty clinic. "She's here." Another voice shouted. "Search every room." Monica crawled through the narrow passage until it opened into an ancient underground drainage tunnel built during the colonial era. She leaned against the damp wall, gasping for breath. A lantern suddenly flickered to life. An elderly man stepped out of the darkness. His gray beard reached his chest. His weathered face showed neither surprise nor fear. Instead, he smiled sadly. "I've been waiting a very long time for this day." Monica stared at him in confusion. "Who are you?" The old man lowered his lantern. "My name is Baba Solomon." His eyes filled with emotion. "And I made a promise to your real father 20 years ago." Outside the tunnel, the voices of the armed men grew louder. They were getting closer. And for the first time in her life, Monica was about to discover that everything she believed about herself was a lie. The damp underground tunnel smelled of earth and old stone. Water dripped steadily from the ceiling as Monica stood frozen, staring at the elderly man holding the lantern. "My real father?" she whispered. The words felt strange on her tongue. Baba Solomon nodded slowly. "I've prayed for this moment for 20 years. Outside the tunnel, muffled voices echoed through the abandoned clinic. "Search every room." She couldn't have gone far. The armed men were closing in. Baba Solomon raised the lantern. "We must keep moving." Without waiting for an answer, he led Monica deeper into the tunnel. The narrow passage twisted beneath the old clinic, its walls lined with bricks blackened by age. Spider webs stretched across forgotten corners, and the air grew cooler with every step. After several minutes, they reached a small underground chamber. A wooden table stood in the center. On it rested a rusty metal box covered in dust. Baba Solomon gently wiped away the dirt. "I have protected this for 2 decades. He unlocked the box with an old brass key hanging around his neck. Inside were carefully wrapped documents, faded photographs, a hospital identification badge, and several patient records tied together with blue ribbon. Monica stared silently. What is all this? The truth. Baba Solomon unfolded a yellowed photograph. It showed a much younger version of himself standing beside nurses outside a large hospital. One of them wore a name tag that read St. Catherine's Maternity Hospital. I worked there as the chief groundskeeper, Baba Solomon began. I knew every nurse, every doctor, every cleaner. He sighed deeply. And I remember the night everything changed. It was 20 years ago. A terrible electrical fire broke out shortly after midnight. The lights failed. Smoke filled the maternity ward. Nurses rushed to save mothers and newborn babies. There was screaming everywhere. Monica listened without blinking. The babies were placed in temporary bassinets while the fire was being contained. During the confusion, Baba Solomon paused. Their identification tags became mixed up. Monica's heart pounded. Most mistakes were corrected before sunrise. But not all. He removed another document from the box. This is the original emergency report. Monica looked at the faded paper. Several names had been crossed out. Others were circled in red ink. One line remained clearly visible. Female infant. Temporary identification. Hope. Her hands began trembling. Hope. Baba Solomon nodded. That was the temporary name assigned to one baby whose identity could not immediately be confirmed. He looked directly into her eyes. That baby was you. Monica felt the room spinning. No. It can't be. It can. He continued quietly. That same night, another woman gave birth. Her daughter was stillborn. She refused to accept the loss. Monica slowly backed away. No. Baba Solomon's voice became heavy with sorrow. That woman was Mama Esther. Silence filled the chamber. Monica shook her head repeatedly. No. You're lying. I wish I were. Torn apart by grief, she waited until the hospital staff became overwhelmed by the fire. Then she entered the temporary nursery. And took you. Monica covered her mouth. Tears streamed down her cheeks. My whole life. Baba Solomon lowered his head. She convinced everyone that you were her child. Even your husband? Monica asked softly. Pa Ade knew? He discovered the truth the following morning. He wanted to return you. But Esther threatened to leave him forever. So he remained silent. Monica collapsed onto an old wooden chair. Everything suddenly made sense. The hatred, the fear, the unanswered questions. She had spent 20 years believing something was wrong with her. But she had never been the problem. She had simply been the reminder of another woman's unbearable grief. Before Monica could speak again, footsteps echoed through the tunnel. Baba Solomon extinguished the lantern. Quiet. Several beams of flashlight swept across the entrance to the chamber. They came this way. One of the men shouted. Baba Solomon whispered urgently. They found us. He led Monica through another narrow passage hidden behind loose stones. The tunnel sloped upward toward the river. Behind them, the men discovered the chamber. Search everything. Paper scattered across the floor. The metal box crashed open. No records, one man shouted. They've taken them. At that same moment, Chief Richard Lawson arrived at the village police station. He placed the anonymous messages and Monica's photograph on the inspector's desk. My daughter is in danger. The inspector immediately recognized the hospital name mentioned in the documents. This is serious. Within minutes, police officers were preparing vehicles. Richard's wife, Victoria, clutched the silver bracelet in her hands. Please, let us find her alive. The convoy sped toward the abandoned clinic. Inside the tunnels, Baba Solomon and Monica finally emerged near the riverbank. Fresh air rushed into their lungs. Monica looked around. We're safe. Baba Solomon shook his head. No. A slow clap echoed behind them. Mama Esther stepped out from behind a large rock. She was not alone. The armed men surrounded the riverbank from every direction. There you are, she said quietly. Monica stared at the woman she had called mother her entire life. Why? Her voice broke. Why did you hate me? Mama Esther's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. I never hated you. Monica laughed bitterly. You burned my books. You starved me. You beat me. You treated me like a servant. What do you call that? Mama Esther looked away. Every time I saw your face, I remembered the daughter I buried. I tried to love you. I truly did. But grief poisoned my heart. Monica stood silently. I was only a baby. I know. You stole my life. I know. You stole someone else's child. I know. Her voice cracked completely. I know. For the first time in 20 years, Monica saw genuine regret on Mama Esther's face. But before either woman could move, a loud rumble shook the ground. The entrance to the tunnel began collapsing. Heavy rocks crashed from the hillside. The armed men scattered in panic. Run! Someone shouted. Baba Solomon pushed Monica away just as massive stones blocked the tunnel entrance. Dust filled the air. When it cleared, Mama Esther was trapped beneath a fallen tree trunk. One of her legs was pinned beneath the debris. The hired men looked at each other. Then they fled, leaving her behind. Monica. She reached out weakly. Help me. Monica stood motionless. This was the woman who'd stolen her identity, who had destroyed her childhood, who had turned every dream into suffering. She could simply walk away. No one would blame her. Baba Solomon gently placed a hand on her shoulder. The choice is yours. In the distance, police sirens echoed through the valley. Chief Richard's convoy was approaching. Monica looked at the trapped woman one last time. Then, without another word, she ran toward Mama Esther. Together with Baba Solomon, she struggled to lift the heavy tree trunk, ignoring the pain in her own bruised hands, ignoring 20 years of cruelty. Because despite everything, Monica refused to become the kind of person hatred had tried to make her. And as the first police vehicles reached the riverbank, Chief Richard stepped out just in time to witness a scene he would never forget. His long-lost daughter risking her own life to save the woman who had stolen her from him. The riverbank fell silent as the police officers rushed toward the collapsed tunnel. Dust still floated through the air while frightened villagers gathered at a safe distance, whispering among themselves. Chief Richard Lawson stood frozen. For 20 years, he had imagined the moment he would finally find his missing daughter. He had pictured embracing her, telling her how much she had been loved, making up for the years they had lost. But nothing had prepared him for what he was seeing now. His daughter, who had every reason to hate the woman trapped beneath the fallen tree, was desperately trying to save her. Push! Monica cried, her face streaked with sweat and dirt. Baba Solomon strained beside her. 2 police officers rushed over to help. With one final effort, they lifted the heavy trunk just enough for Mama Esther to pull herself free. She collapsed onto the ground, sobbing. Monica dropped to her knees, exhausted. For a brief moment, their eyes met. No words were spoken. There was nothing left to say. The truth had finally caught up with them. Inspector Adeyemi stepped forward. Mama Esther, you are under arrest for the kidnapping of a child, identity fraud, and obstructing an investigation. 2 officers gently placed handcuffs around her wrists. She didn't resist. She simply lowered her head. I've been running from this day for 20 years, she whispered. I am tired. Pa Ade arrived moments later, breathless after hearing what had happened. When he saw the handcuffs, tears filled his eyes. He slowly walked toward Monica. My daughter. He stopped himself. No. I don't even know if I deserve to call you that. Monica looked at the man who had tucked her into bed when she was sick, who had secretly shared his meals with her when Mama Esther refused to feed her, and who had smiled at her when no one else would. You were my father, she said softly. You just weren't brave enough. Pa Ade broke down. I wanted to tell you the truth so many times. I know, but I was afraid. And your fear stole 20 years from all of us. He nodded through his tears. I'll regret that for the rest of my life. Nearby, Chief Richard could no longer hold himself back. He slowly approached Monica. Victoria walked beside him, clutching the tiny silver bracelet that had never left her possession. Monica looked at the strangers standing before her. For some reason, their faces felt familiar. Victoria's eyes overflowed with tears. Without speaking, she held out the bracelet. Monica reached into her pocket and removed the bracelet Baba Solomon had given her. The 2 bracelets were identical. The same tiny crown. The same engraved word. Hope. Victoria's voice trembled. We had one. You had the other. They were made as a pair. She gently touched Monica's cheek. I've imagined this moment every single day. Richard swallowed hard. When the hospital told us you were missing, we searched everywhere. We hired investigators. We visited orphanages. We never stopped looking. His voice cracked. Not for one day. Monica stared at them. Every emotion she had buried for years rose to the surface. Confusion, grief, joy, anger, relief. Then Victoria opened her arms. You don't have to call us mother and father today. You don't have to forgive anyone today. You don't even have to come with us. We only want you to know. We never abandoned you. Those words shattered the last wall around Monica's heart. She stepped forward and embraced them both. The three of them stood together, crying beneath the afternoon sun while the villagers watched in silence. Several months later, the case became national news. The investigation into the fire at St. Catherine's Maternity Hospital uncovered long-forgotten failures in record-keeping and emergency procedures. Authorities reopened old files, and Monica's identity was confirmed through DNA testing. The evidence left no doubt. She was the biological daughter of Richard and Victoria Lawson. Mama Esther confessed to taking Monica during the confusion that followed the fire. She admitted that grief over losing her own baby had clouded her judgment, but she also accepted responsibility for raising Monica under a false identity and hiding the truth for 2 decades. The court considered her confession, her age, and the extraordinary circumstances surrounding the case. She was sentenced for the kidnapping and fraud she had committed, while the judge acknowledged that grief could explain her actions, but could never excuse them. As she was led away from the courtroom, she turned toward Monica. I'm sorry. The words were barely audible. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. Monica nodded quietly. You don't owe me an apology anymore. You owe yourself a life of honesty. Mama Esther lowered her head. For the first time in 20 years, the burden she had carried alone was no longer hidden. Life slowly began to change. Monica moved to Lagos with Richard and Victoria, but she refused to forget Afolu. She completed the education she had once been denied. She studied tirelessly, determined to ensure that no child would ever lose their identity because of negligence or corruption. With the support of her biological parents, she established the Hope Maternal and Child Health Center on the outskirts of Afolu. The clinic offered safe maternity care, newborn identification systems, and free medical services for struggling families. Above the entrance hung a simple inscription: Every child deserves their true beginning. On the day the clinic officially opened, villagers from across the region gathered to celebrate. Among them was Pa Ade, now an older man with gray in his beard. He stood quietly in the crowd, pride and regret sharing the same space in his heart. With special permission from the authorities, Mama Esther was allowed to attend the ceremony under supervision. She stood alone at the back, too ashamed to look anyone in the eye. She expected whispers. She expected condemnation. She expected Monica to ignore her completely. Instead, Monica walked through the crowd until she stood before the woman who had raised her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Monica gently embraced her. The crowd fell silent. Mama Esther began to cry. I don't deserve this. No, Monica replied softly. But forgiveness isn't something people earn. It's something others choose. I cannot erase what happened. I cannot pretend my childhood wasn't painful. But I refuse to spend the rest of my life carrying the hatred that nearly destroyed yours. Mama Esther buried her face in Monica's shoulder and wept openly. Not because her past had been erased, but because, at last, she had stopped running from it. As the sun dipped behind the hills of Afolu, children laughed outside the new clinic, mothers smiled with newborns in their arms, and hope filled a place once marked by secrecy and sorrow. The villagers would remember many things about Monica. Some would remember the girl who carried water before dawn. Others would remember the child who had been stolen. But history would remember her for something far greater. She was the daughter who lost 20 years, yet refused to lose her heart. And in choosing compassion over revenge, Monica ended a cycle of pain that had begun in smoke and fear 20 years earlier, proving that while the truth can uncover old wounds, love and forgiveness can still build a better future.